Fracking and tar sands. Fracking, also known as hydraulic fracturing, is the process in which many major companies have turned to in an effort to retrieve oil and gas as a solution for the increasing scarcity of fossil fuel. As a non-renewable resource, the world only holds so much of this valued power source, and our society is nowhere near accepting the fact that we might eventually run out, making the search for more fossil fuel a headlong effort with little regard for the health and environmental risks new techniques could impose. Fracking is composed of a high-powered mixture of water, sand, and chemicals that is directed into sheets of shale, forcing gas to be released. As described in the picture, a well is drilled where the liquid mixture is directed either horizontally or vertically through the rock bed. This creates fissures in the shale and releases the gas, which is then directed up the same hole and collected at the surface. This process was first started by the energy firm Cuadrilla in 2011, but was halted due to fear that it would create unnatural earth tremors. This method has become increasingly common in most of the UK, especially northern England. Legal permission must be obtained in order to begin fracking at a site, and regulations have been put in place as to limit the disruption this method can cause. Several companies, including Third Energy, iGas, Aurora Energy Resources, and INEOS, are all beginning to look into fracking as an option for the retrieval of resources. Tar sands, also known as oil sands, are a combination of sand, clay, water, and bitumen, a thick, sticky oil. Bitumen is commonly used as a binding mixture in road asphalt and is also seen as a material used for waterproofing buildings. Bitumen is naturally occurring and formed by the process of bacteria coming into contact with lighter soil, oil, and creating degradation of the oil's properties. This tar can also be refined with lighter oils later on in the extraction process to create crude oil, which is used in a number of ways. Since tar sands are so thick, sand and clay often adhere to it, making it difficult to be pumped out of the ground using common methods. If the tar is close to the surface, the process of open pit mining is used. Similar to open pit coal mining, the tar sands can be mined directly, and later on the excess debris can be taken out. The tar sands are deeper within the earth. In situ mining is the preferred method for extraction. Hot steam and chemical solvents are injected so that the sand is loosened up around the bitumen and the thick tar can flow up to the surface as directed by wells. The biggest tar sands in the world are located in Alberta, Canada, and Venezuela. Alberta takes the cake of largest production and has contributed over 170 billion barrels of this fossil fuel. Ironically, Canada, home to the biggest tar sand production in the world, is also striving to be the face of climate conscientiousness. Major oil industries are trying to work with the government on funding and creating carbon catching technology in efforts to keep the toxins out of the atmosphere. The country has also begun to implement carbon tax. Environmentally forward government officials have tried to contain tar sands and fracking through this new regulation. Industries that emit an excess amount of carbon into the atmosphere are being taxed in efforts to minimize the emission of the harmful gas. This carbon tax in turn has funded $350 million towards energy research. Especially prominent in Alberta, which is where the biggest fossil fuels production stems from, the Canadian Environment Minister, Catherine McKenna, has promoted various emission reduction techniques in effort to slow the harmful effects of greenhouse gases. While these techniques are meant to quell major oil production companies' pollution contribution, it is also affecting the citizens of Canada. The higher the carbon tax, the higher the price of gasoline and fuel for heating homes. The price to save the environment may be too high for most people living in affected areas, which leads to the economic impact of the blight of this environmental issue. According to the graph above, gas and heating prices would end up costing an average household 3 times more than what they are paying currently. This increasing problem of corporate oil pollution is not a sudden risk, but rather an ever-growing concern that is finally hitting visible damage. Not being cushioned by recent world events such as the pandemic, Canada has already lost 68,000 jobs and counting, which means people are even less willing to back a tax that while ultimately save the environment, it will not save the livelihood of the people living in it. Even the effort of major companies appearing to put into saving the environment is sometimes under false pretenses. Texas-based oil company Trans Mountain announced that it was abandoning its plans to expand the pipeline, only for it to move over a few miles and create an even bigger twin of a production base that takes up most of the 715-mile-long stretch from Alberta to British Columbia. Not only is there money in the oil mine, but also in the project itself, valuing it at a good $3.4 billion, when the Prime Minister of British Columbia bought it from Kinder Morgan, who previously owned the operation. Our reliance on fossil fuel takes a toll on every part of the environment around us. The actual chemical process of refining the oil takes an incredible amount of fresh water, using about 2.4 barrels for every barrel of oil produced. Once the fresh water has been used, it is so polluted it can't be used in any other way, and is instead stored in giant pools. These pools of wastewater leak into the soil and pollute the land farther. The fumes that are produced release harmful carbon into the atmosphere and are labeled as greenhouse gases. While there has always been carbon in the air, the vast expanses of our forests have continued to clean the air and use up the carbon, giving us more oxygen. The oil pipelines have also taken a toll on this natural helping system. Anytime the oil leaks, it can create massive wildfires that burn down the trees that we need for clean air. The pandemic has also increased the amount of energy people use. With quarantines being put into place all around the world, people are spending a generous amount of time indoors. While working from home is one of the only ways people can continue to make their livelihood, every computer adds to the ever-increasing need for energy. While the Trans Mountain Pipeline is taking up a large expanse already, the demand continues to overload the capacity. The Canadian Energy Regulator has forecasted that Alberta will continue to rise in oil production, with a rate of 5.8 million barrels of oil produced per day over the next 20 years. The people that run the machines of these companies, and even the people that are within proximity of the oil production, are at a higher risk of developing health issues due to the amount of toxins in the earth and the air. Michael Beamish is only one case in which growing up near the tar sands led him to be diagnosed with severe thyroid cancer. Even taking precautions such as mask wearing in an effort to protect our bodies does little when paired with multiple years of exposure to pollution.